Hey, since you have turned in your self-reliance summary, I wanted to send you this video. I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to talk with you about self-reliance. I just think it's one of the best essays ever. It's so good. And usually students really like it once they get an understanding. Um, so one of the first things I wanted to point out in the first paragraph is this first, let's see if I can do this, is the first full sentence. There's a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better for worse as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to him, but through his toil bestowed on that plot of ground which is given him to till. And it's a super long sentence, but I mean, it's just chock full of these great ideas. When Emerson talks about education, he's not talking about formal education. He's talking about that idea of being a lifelong learner, just being a scholar your entire life. Usually we don't have a problem understanding this idea of envy is ignorance. So if you're jealous, then you don't know something. So if I'm jealous of your skills, then I don't recognize my own. So if I'm jealous of your skills, my next the next thing I would naturally do is try to copy you. But if I'm copying you to try to attain your skills, then I'm killing myself and I'm not practicing my skills. So you have this balance here. Now, Emerson uses this farming metaphor throughout. And basically what he's saying is that this plot of ground that you've been given to till, that's your body. That's your body and your skills. I mean, that's basically all you've been given in this world. Everything else that you attain, any property, any education, those are all things that have come to you through your tilling of this plot of ground you've been given to till. I just think that's a great idea. Also in the first paragraph, Emerson saying that the self-reliant man doesn't or understands that he won't be happy. He can't achieve success until he accepts himself for who he is. The second paragraph talks about self-expression and just really it's saying what you mean. And I always explain this line in the text with this scenario. Have you ever been sitting in class and the teacher asks a question and you think you know the answer, but you're not sure that you're right? So you don't say anything. Well, someone else says exactly what you were thinking, and you're like, "Oh, I knew that. I should have said it." We but half express ourselves and are ashamed of that divine idea which each of us represents. I just love that. Emerson believed that God was in everyone. This is a philosophical statement, not a religious statement. And I typed that on a lot of people's, as a comment on a lot of people's notes. Emerson is not making a statement about being a good Christian, okay? He's just talking about the fact that there is a greater being inside of all of us. We are greater than ourselves. And when we realize that we are greater than ourselves, then that's when we reach that point of peace and satisfaction. Now, religious people say that's the recognition of God in your life, or perhaps the acceptance of Jesus. Some people say, if you're Buddhist, and if you're Buddhist, please forgive me if I have massacred your beliefs, but that you have achieved Zen at that point. It's all the same thing. It's all that same idea of just this feeling of everything's good. It's going to be okay, and I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. Emerson also talks in this paragraph about how the self-reliant man is always, doing his best. He never settles for less. I always use this scenario to explain that one, that line. Think about the assignments that you have procrastinated, and then at the last minute you throw some junk together and you turn it in. Well, are you done with that assignment? Now, if you're honest with yourself, you say no, because even though you don't have the assignment to do, now you got to worry about the grade. And once you get that bad grade, now you're going to have to worry about how to pull up that grade. So it's a deliverance that does not deliver. If you just spent the time doing the assignment to the best of your abilities, then when you turned it in, you would have been done. So that's just, a very small scale way of looking at that statement about how the self-reliant man is always working to do his best. The next paragraph, no one really had any difficulties with this. It's pretty simple. Trust yourself. Believe that you are doing, saying, thinking, acting in the way that you are supposed to do, think, say, and act. Okay? Now, the next paragraph gave everyone a few difficulties, and perhaps that's because we really are just looking at an excerpt. We're not reading the whole essay. The key here is in this section. Okay? We're not cowards fleeing before revolution, but redeemers. We being these self-reliant men. Okay? Self-reliant men are redeemers and benefactors. Now that's a powerful thing. So the self-reliant man is paving the way, is making the way easier for everyone else who doesn't understand self-reliance. Then we get to this idea of solitude, society. Now, Emerson believed that society was the same thing as chaos, and that sounds like a paradox. And think about this. I'm going to put this right over here. Emerson believed that society equaled chaos. Well, society creates rules so that there won't be chaos, right? You think about how you sit at school. I mean, you're sitting in rows in a desk, or you're sitting in a desk in rows. You walk on the right side. We drive on the right side. There are certain rules and regulations designed to keep things orderly. But don't those extra rules and regulations really create chaos? Think about the chaos, the craziness that was created with the uniform policy. Society, the Board of Education, said that it was going to make schools more orderly. But look at how much chaos has come from this one rule designed to create order. Okay? So the paradox is that in society's effort to create order, it has only caused more chaos. Okay, you remember that. And if you want to avoid that chaos, then you become self-reliant. You don't conform. Okay, you don't fit into society just to fit in. Now, that's not saying that you're always anti-society. That means that you think about your decisions that you're making in society. So you might do what society says do, but only after you've thought it through and you've decided, oh, okay, that's the right thing to do. And that's being a nonconformist. Not a nonconformist. Some people think they have this misunderstanding that a nonconformist is always anti-society, down with the government. That's so far from Emerson's beliefs. Okay, the nonconformist thinks about what is right. Look right here. It says, but must explore if it be goodness. Doesn't just accept that something's good and right, but the nonconformist explores whether or not it's goodness. And then the last paragraph talks about being great is to be great is to be misunderstood, and Emerson lists all these people: Pythagoras, Socrates, Jesus, Luther, Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton. Sorry, I'm a little tired. And all these people were misunderstood in their time. They weren't considered great until later, till after, many, many years after, in most cases. And that's what Emerson is saying about being self-reliant. People aren't going to understand why you are making the choices that you're making. The self-reliant man doesn't fit into society because society doesn't understand him. People don't understand why he does what he does, but he doesn't care, because ultimately the self-reliant man is doing what he believes is right all the time. Okay? We can trust the self-reliant man. He's trustworthy and he's confident. Now that's kind of goes back up here to this paragraph, trust thyself. The self-reliant man believes in his decisions and he trusts them. The other side of that coin is that we can trust him. When the self-reliant man says something or does something, we can trust that he is doing and saying exactly what he believes is right. Okay? So this is just my little rundown on self-reliance. I like to go through it with my classes. I just think it's too rich of a piece to just leave to a worksheet. I really like to talk about it a little bit. If you have any questions or you want to make some replies, please send them to me. Maybe we can share it as a class if you're interested. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.